Hello and a very warm welcome back to Dovey Plants. We have just had our first market. It was on Saturday, it's Monday now, and this video is showcasing what it entailed, some reaction, and of course, was it worth doing? So let's start with the night before, where it was a beautiful evening and we're getting plants ready for packing the van. Tomorrow is our first farmers market. It's currently Friday evening, and what I'm doing is a little tally of what we're taking so I can make sure that all of our paperwork is in check and we know exactly what's happening. There's a few trays that we've got a lot of things in, of like sweet peas. I'll just pick up this one here actually. These are pallets, more the crates that Claire made, which you might have seen the video, and as you can see, very effective. In here we have tomato green zebra and tomato tigerella, and then we also have some courgette plants. So it's getting to that stage where we do have lots of plants, and you can see around me there's a lot more on their way, and it's been selling well in 3 retailers. We've also got a video about that that's just come out, and my job now that we've gone and selected these plants is to make sure that they all have labels. I've also prepared some like little info cards which will be fun to show. Want to put those in just as a bit of interpretation. We're renting a gazebo for this market rather than, we've got one on the way, a Dovey Plants, Planhigion Dovey Plants branded gazebo, but it isn't quite here yet, so we've had to rent one. But we do have a sign, and so that'll be exciting. And this is very much, I haven't really done anything like this before. I don't think any of us have really. So we're just going in slightly blind, but trying to make sure that we're as prepped as possible. Like, look at this beautiful perennial kale Taunton Dean here, which is really nice, and all sorts of other things like strawberries. But the light is fading, so I better crack on and make sure that everything is noted down. And there's some things we only have one plant of because we might only have 1 or 2 plants. I've been quite thrifty, and if I've seen a spare plant, I've dug it up and we've grown it on. An example here is some lemon balm. Like, that's a pretty cool plant. So I was like, you know what? Let's sell it and see what happens. So a nice mix, but I better carry on. So yeah, I'm just making sure that I have the correct quantity, and what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I've got the quantity. So Himalayan honeysuckle 4, and then next to it I'm putting a price, and I'll put them as, a lot of it, some of you enjoyed my pricing strategy. I'd say like £7.50. It's all learning at the moment, £7.50, and because I've got that information, it then means I can sit down. We have custom printed some of the labels, so like these labels here, these aren't actually custom printed. We've got blank ones. These ones of the Chinese artichokes are custom printed, so it's very easy to go and put into the plants. But a lot of them, we need to individually write the labels because we haven't got round to labelling everything yet. And that's okay. I'm just putting a circle around the ones that need a handwritten label. So late at night, tonight, maybe with a beer, I can crack on with that quietly. I think I'm done. Now, here though, these are crimson flowered broad beans. And these are 24 plants, and they're going to be a freebie. So for the first 24 customers, I get a free crimson flowered broad bean. And I'm saying to grow them for, obviously you can eat the leaves, you can eat the beans if you want to, but as a pretty fun edible annual flower that they can have in their garden, and it looks quite nice as well. So we're going to try, every time we do a market, we're going to try and do some kind of deal or something a little bit fun. So crimson flower broad beans as a freebie will be one. We do have some, it's actually quite funny. These here are some unidentified tomatoes. I believe they are either tigerella, green zebra or outdoor girl, and we don't know. It's definitely a cordon tomato. So we'll we'll pot those on, not wanting to waste them, and then that could be another freebie, a surprise outdoor tomato, which is guaranteed to be a good one, otherwise we wouldn't have sown it. But yeah, quite funny. So this white table that Will, who is filming and runs the channel, kindly cleaned is one of 3 tables that we have. I'm actually waiting on some hessian or some jute or burlap to put over the top that is just like a nice aesthetic. We don't have that, so tomorrow you'll see I'll have thought of some kind of alternative to hide the whiteness. At least the pallets will look nice and rustic. But I've done a plant count, and there's, excluding the crimson flowered broad beans, there's 176 plants here ready for action. I do feel like actually bringing it up to 200, and actually, well, basically a crate like this fits 24 plants in the 7cm pot. So I might just bring an extra crate of just smaller things, that if something's looking a little bit sparse, I can bring some blank labels, and if we need to, you know, I'll do a mix of some tomatoes and some other things. We can always refill and see what happens. But now I'm going to start very carefully. I'm completely terrified, but loading the van. Now, this is a part of our packaging for sending plants and tubers and stuff, but I suddenly realised that there's a couple of like spaces. We need to wear a shirt so my microphone sits properly, sorry about that. But there's a couple of spaces where I don't want, they're nice and neat in here, but the issue is that the plants can kind of move about. And I don't really want the plants to move about. I want them to not, because Welsh roads are very windy. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting this in as void filler, like you would when you're sending off a plant in the post. And at the end of the day, I can still use this, I can repurpose it. So everything, by the way, has had a good watering, so we don't need to water it again. So when I water, I would obviously water first before putting this in, but it's not, you know, it's making this multi-purpose packaging, multi-purpose void filler. Amazing. The things you learn. Void filled. So the next day we woke up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The aim was to leave here at 8. We left here about 10 past 8, and it was nice to have the van packed beforehand. There was a bit of a last-minute rush of needing some more labels, but nothing too disastrous. In fact, probably the most disastrous thing was once everything was set up. I'm skipping ahead a bit, but just so I don't forget. Once everything was set up, we had like 5 people waiting to pay, and the card reader app wasn't working. And it was a little bit stressful because I tested everything else the night before. But you know what made it work? I just turned the phone on and off again. And it worked perfectly, and then it was a little less stressful, and then we made 5 sales quite quickly. So yes, we did sell at least 5 plants, but how many? Well, the first thing was, it was our first market, so the main thing was getting there and making sure it was set up. Now there's a bit of confusion to begin with which side is our shop front, where would people be coming from, because there's a marquee already made for us, because we've got a marquee coming but it hasn't quite arrived yet, so we rented a marquee off them. The total cost of renting the marquee was £6, and the cost for attending, like the cost of the trade stand, was £12. So anyway, we had like set up our tables, and it was like, oh no, there's actually a marquee going to be right next to us, so customers won't see us from that side. We ended up creating quite a nice U shape, so the idea is that people could come in and see all three sides of plants, all of the information looking inwards. One of the things that we haven't done yet with retailers, but we're going to start today, because after I film this, I'm off to Medina to drop off more plants, but we've created these little info cards which provide some information, some interpretation, which saves us having to explain everything, and hopefully it's quite a nice, concise thing to do. So the idea is the name of the plant, what it really is, whether it's like a perennial vegetable, a little headline, so for the Asturian tree cabbage it's harvest 365 days a year, and then a bit of info just to get people interested. So we did that, and I have to say it looked really cool. Our nursery manager Ileri had the lovely idea of, for each table, to have 3 crates of the wooden crates that you saw Llym make, 3 crates per table, and then dot some of the bigger plants in and around, so it kind of had quite a naturalistic feel. And it looked awesome, and then we opened and people started coming, and we all enjoyed it. I obviously invited Will to come because we didn't have this, you know, magic person just filming in the background. Will came along. We all had a pizza for lunch, so that was worth it in itself. But the market was really fun because it was having that one-on-one interaction with customers. There's a few patterns that I thought was quite interesting that maybe we can do better at. So making a card with the sweet peas to say, don't just buy 1 pot of sweet peas, that's probably not going to be enough. I tried to explain a couple of times that maybe if someone had like 1 pot, I'd say maybe start with 3, but they're like, oh, we only have a small space. And I think people have these preconceived ideas and they don't want a human to say, actually, no, it would be better to have a few more sweet peas so you get that abundance. That's where I think having something like a card that they can read and maybe a little bit of advice on how to grow the sweet peas would actually be really useful, because sweet peas ended up being one of our top sellers. So we used SumUp as a way of tracking everything, and we sold in total 20 sweet pea pots, which is nice. And yeah, 20 sweet pea pots. So that was interesting. That's a little thing that we could definitely improve on. So instead of someone buying 1 or 2 sweet peas, maybe they go for like 4 to 6 sweet peas. And in total, here's the rundown before I release how much we made and whether I think it was worth it and what we might change next time. So we sold 105 plants or items in total. The average sale was £12.83. Some of the more popular things were the Asturian tree cabbage, the Verbena bonariensis, cucumber as well. Those were all really cool. Now the payment methods is quite interesting. It was almost 50-50, but cash took the lead at 18 sales cash and 16 sales card. So that was quite interesting. I feel like the bigger, more pricier sales were by card, and then people just getting 1 or 2 plants were just pulling out, you know, £3 or something to get a cucumber. And I do think it's nice to have those like little things where someone's like, you know what, just I get that 1 plant, and the idea is keep that cash flow coming in. The busiest time was between 11 a.m. and 12 noon. It's really cool to see this kind of stats. And then the grand total that we made in terms of revenue from the day was £436.50. Does that mean it's worth it? I definitely think, even for like 2 people, I think equivalent of a day's work with the prep the day before, and obviously there's a lot more to do this time because it was setting up systems for the first time, so in theory it should only get more seamless. I think as 2 people, just about worth it, as in break even. Now the goal is that this would be the job of 1 person manning a market stall, and if it's just that 1 person, then it is absolutely worth it. But also, as a lot of people said, this is our first time there, so we haven't built up any consistency. A lot of people were like, oh, we didn't know you were coming. A couple of people were like, oh, I would have told my friends that you were coming. So I think the idea of being a consistent presence in the market and always offering a variety of plants. You know, we turned up with some plants, we maybe only had one of those plants, but it still adds that visual variety. So all in all, it was a huge amount of fun. For any of you that did come along, thank you. And another important thing that we've learned from this is some people saw on social media that we had gone, and they're like, oh, we didn't know you were going. Can you like make a place where we know where you'll be and when? So what we're going to do to respond to that is on the website doveyplants.co.uk, we're going to have just a little section or page or something which is where to find us, and it will be a list of the dates and the market locations or the locations where we'll be doing stuff. So yeah, really chuffed, really enjoyed it. Hopefully the next one might even be this coming Saturday for Aberystwyth Farmers Market. We've got a few other things coming up. 27th of April on a Sunday is at a Plas in Machynlleth. And yeah, right, as always, time to get back to potting on some plants.